Live debate. IntelligenceSquared.com.
Ken Schachter, our next speaker, is something of a dark horse on this side of the panel because he's a commercial dealer, but also a curator, critic, and formerly an artist, I believe, as well. So, Kenny, take it away.
A year ago, I was asked as a last-minute stand-in to participate in a debate. I was standing in for Matthew Collins, who I'm now sitting beside. So speaking of markets, I guess my stock is rising because I've actually been properly invited this time around. When I was sent the roster of participants tonight, I was taken aback that 3 of the people that I not only respect but count as friends were participating, but they happened to be on the wrong side of the issue. So I start this debate a little bit disappointed, but I'm going to carry on. To cut to the chase, we can end it right now before we start because the best judge of good art is simple and unequivocal. It's experience, education, scholarship, and passion. The market, which is namely money, is what we're talking about tonight, is a snapshot of the current whims, the fashions, and fads. Oftentimes, the crowd that lead the auction scene are not the culturally brightest bunch at the brunch. Not to mention that there's rampant manipulation, speculation, and deceit, which is part and parcel, or so they say, of the auction process, with all due respect. But that's why we love the art market, because it's the last unregulated multi-billion-dollar business. For me, art is a lifelong learning curve, and the market is no substitute for putting your eyeballs on it. You have to smell it, taste it, touch it. You need to lift it, hang it, insure it, frame it, pack it, ship it, live with it, damage it, hate it, idolize it, and read it like a book day in and day out. That's the best judge of art. Experience and tactility and honing your eyes is of paramount importance. People always refer in the art world as having a good eye, but I think one is not enough, and I like to think that I have 2. All markets, the biggest problem of what we're discussing tonight is that all markets are by nature inefficient at times, at least at moments. When the stock market goes up, the good and the bad and the ugly follow suit, and the same when it goes down, and you could say the same about the art world. Auctions die because of lack of confidence, and quality works are often the casualty. Call it death by unfriendly fire. Reputations go up and reputations go down. History is revised regularly, so why depend on any one signifier of value when in effect it's many variables that contribute to worth? Don't get me wrong, I'm a true believer in art and money and think that they make cozy bedfellows, but the market, or rather the dollar value, is just one determining factor. Manet, when he was painting during his lifetime, couldn't find a gallery to sell his work or a collector to buy it early on, so he was reduced to borrowing money from his mother to build a temporary structure to house a one-person exhibit of his own work because no one would buy it. Duchamp barely sold his work during his life and ended up relying on interior decorating, art advising, rich patrons, and he also pulled off some wildly unsuccessful and impractical entrepreneurial flubs, like selling cardboard optical illusions for children that spun on a turntable and a shirt dyeing enterprise that he put inheritance money into. But try to buy the work of either of them now. Consider Warhol and his market during his lifetime. The record at auction during his lifetime was $285,000 in 1986, a fact that disappointed Warhol to the core. The painting was $201 bills. It went to London-based collector Paulina Karpidis, who sold it in 2009 for close to $44 million. When Warhol died in '87, he was more known for cheesy portraits of Pia Zadora, hanging out in a different type of studio, Studio 54, a guest appearance on the Love Boat television program, and handing out copies of Interview magazine out of a bag in Soho. Which market characterization of Warhol makes more sense? Is his art any different today than it was when the market frowned upon it? In fact, the art market is incapable of judging anything about art other than what one person, not necessarily of sound mind, will pay for something at a given point in time. There are no assurances or guarantees that there is anything backing up a price other than capriciousness. There are countless instances of collectors, speculators, and dealers getting fired up and excited about the day's soup du jour that turned into nothing, merely worth its scrap value or less. Rather than good, the market can be a very bad judge of markets themselves, not to mention actual value. So there are many instances of meteoric rises offset by swift declines. For example, since the early '80s, the markets of Donald Sultan, painter from America, David Salle, Julian Schnabel, and the triumvirate of Francesco Clemente, Sandro Chia, and Enzo Cucchi. I think Mr. Sacchi himself had a hand in their decline, but we'll leave that to another debate. They're not all bad artists, though some most definitely are, but the market certainly thinks so now, but it certainly didn't think so then. In today's terms, think of the most glaring recent examples of market madness. There's 250 million, they say, has been paid for Cézanne's The Card Players, which is the highest price ever paid for a work of art. Fittingly, it's a subject about gambling. 105 million for Giacometti's Walking Man to Lily Safra, call it Gilding the Gilded Lily. 150 million for Jackson Pollock's and de Kooning's, and that's meant to be plural. My question is, for the market equals value pundits, couldn't the money be put to better use even in the age of zero-sum returns on cash from charities to investments, and where's the upside from outer space? So to conclude, I think good art comes before a good market, and oftentimes good art has no market. For example, there's the work of an artist like Vito Acconci or Paul Thek, both enormously talented seminal artists whose prices are nowhere near the latest 20-something sensation, one of whom may be showing upcoming at the ICA, but I didn't say anything. Even Sigmar Polka, a well-established artist, his paperworks are often under $100,000 at auction, and I believe they're completely inadequately valued by today's market. So it's true that good art is usually not cheap, but works of art could just as easily be overrated by the market as underrated by it. Thank you.